This is a chocolate buttercream frosting. Chocolate leaves and little rolls and hearts. And here's a chocolate cake decorated with chocolate cigarettes. We're working with chocolate today on the French Chef.
The French Chef is made possible by a grant from the Polaroid Corporation.
Welcome to the French Chef. I'm Julia Child. Today we're working with chocolate, this beautiful stuff, and we're making a marvelous French buttercream frosting. Here it is, very slimming. And we're making chocolate decorations, leaves and cigarettes and hearts. And what we're going to do is to have a private lesson in Paris with our wonderful maître pâtissier, Chef Dublieu. But before you can work with chocolate, you have to melt it, and it's got to be smooth and beautiful, just like that. And this is extremely important if you're going to work with chocolate and make the kind of decorations that we're going to do. And chocolate is a much more complicated substance than most of us seem to realize. And I'm going to start out with a mixture that I always like to use, which is 4 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate and 1 ounce of bitter chocolate. And then you can melt this over simmering water, but we've done that so much I'm going to do something else. I'm going to melt it in a warming oven. The important thing is with chocolate that you melt it very slowly. And if you're a professional, you have a thermometer and you melt it to a temperature of 110 degrees. And at that temperature is when all of the particles of the chocolate are fully melted, and they all have to melt together. And in other words, you have what they call a chocolate liquor, which is the essence and the flavor, and then you have other flavorings and sugar, and you have cocoa butter, and presumably if it's all up to 110, everything is melted, and then it's to come slowly down to about 80 degrees. And what I like to do, I happen to have a well-regulated oven, and I can just put it in here and set the oven at 110 and 115 degrees. And in about half an hour, it's melted and smooth and beautiful. If you're going to get a new oven, get one of these warming drawers, which is equally good because you can set it just at the temperature that you want, and it's convenient for all kinds of things. And this is what the chocolate is to look like. And this is absolutely plain chocolate. There's no liquid in it at all, and this is the kind that you use for decorations. As you can see, it's absolutely smooth and liquid. Chocolate working actually is a very special art, and it's really a life's work if you're a professional. And I'd always thought that it was just too much for ordinary people to do. But Chef Dublieu showed me some marvelous things to do with melted chocolate, and I want you to see them.
Ah oui, on va faire le travail au chocolat. Il faut qu'elle soit à peine tiède.
And this is special melted chocolate called couverture, and it's just hardly,
C'est comme froid.
barely, it's almost as though it were cold, but not, it's still liquid. Lovely chocolate. Et ça une spatule bien. And just spreading it all out. Et c'est pas très épais.
Ah non, il faut que ce soit comme une feuille de papier.
It must be about as thick as a piece of paper. And just spread it all out.
Yeah.
And then here's one that's all ready, Chef.
This one is cold.
And that's cold, and you just peel it off the paper.
You take the nylon off.
You just peel it off like that.
Oui.
Yeah.
Alors, je vais vous montrer maintenant pour faire un petit sujet, là.
Now we're going to make a little subject or a little figure.
Yeah.
Some paper. There's a little knife under there.
Yeah.
Voila. And that's a little paper cone. Some more chocolate in it. That's a little paper cone, and he's cutting it with a knife to make it just the right size. Ah. Oh. It's going to be a senior. No?
C'est good.
Oh, a. What is a cigogne? I can't remember. A stork. Oh, that's charming. If he's out of. You'll gallop.
Gallop, oui, voilà.
Galloping.
Voilà.
Oh, that's
hein?
lovely. You peel them off the paper when they're dry, and then you can stand them up on a cake or a pastry or anything that you would like.
C'est très facile, puis ça
Oui.
sert à décorer des gâteaux.
And you can
Oui.
decorate cakes with them.
You-
Yes.
You can make the flowers, everything.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be chocolate cigarettes.
Chocolat fondant.
Special melting chocolate.
Yes. On peut le faire aussi avec du milk chocolate.
And you can make it with milk chocolate. And this
Yes.
is, it's cool. It's not hot, it's cool, isn't it? See?
Yes.
You notice he has a wonderfully flexible spatula. Wow. Je peux essayer une, chef?
Mais avec plaisir, madame. Un peu couché.
Là. Et le pousser.
Allez, en poussant là-bas.
Pousser, mais ça ne tourne pas. Bien, je vais le refaire. Ça,
Allez,
it doesn't
c'est ça. Voilà.
turn. I'll pousse like that.
Comme ça.
Ah oui, ah oui.
Là.
C'est un
Et
mouvement
aussi.
comme cela. Here's a
Yeah.
whole box. Ça, c'est bien.
Oui, oui, celui-là, il
C'est
était
très
froid.
joli. Well, here are my cigarettes. I can't say that they're as nice as Chef Dublier's, but at least I got them to roll up. Now, here's the important thing about this chocolate. You have it melted, and then it has to cool down rather slowly. And then you spread it out, just as he did. You remember, as he felt it, it was really almost cold. And that certainly is one of the tricks of it. I'll just spread two lines here. If one doesn't work, maybe the other one will. But you can tell it's about ready to go when it has begun to cloud over. As you can see, this is beginning to cloud over now. And then you want to get yourself a nice, rather flexible knife. It's not quite it, but almost. It's still a little bit shiny. But one thing, the movement, because I had tried doing cigarettes for years, and that movement that he did of the slide like that was the entire trick in it. As you remember, when I did it first, I pushed the chocolate just like that, and nothing happened. But just remember, when you do it yourself, that you do start at one angle and just slide it like that. And I'm going to see. I don't think that's quite ready yet, but I'm going to try it anyway. Not quite. Almost. No, I'll try one more. There. You see that? Really, that whole trick was just pushing it like that. A very large one. Maybe it's now I've let it just a little bit too long. But you have to get it just at the moment. Well, there's a nice leaf. Well, that's fine. I cheated a little bit because I'll see how these work now. What I did was I put some ice on this marble to speed things up a little bit. And that hasn't quite gone, but you get the idea of it, which is mainly is wait until it's just right, and then that sideways movement. There, that one's going very nicely. This is, and now remember the temperature of the chocolate, being very careful, and if you can get it at, say, 110, and then let it slowly come down, you're going to be all right. And then to keep the chocolate, keep the cigarettes, just put them in a little box in the refrigerator, because they melt really quite quickly. And now, little chocolate figures, the ones that he did. This is on a piece of plastic, and you have to have a paper cone. And here's how to make it. There's a right angle triangle, and you seize it by the hypotenuse at a point opposite the right angle, and then you roll the long end up around to where that right angle was, and then roll the other end around to cover it around outside, and then pull it together, and you can either fold it down to hold it, or you can pin it. Actually, it should be about 11 by 14 inches. I think these are a little bit small, but I'm going to use them anyway. But the point to remember is that the hypotenuse becomes the point of the cone, and then you're all right. And then put it in a little cup and fill it with your beautifully melted chocolate. And then turn the cone down, and you may need a little point, you may need to cut a little point, and you may not. I don't have to in this case. And then, if you can't do a free form, you can do some tracings of things on a piece of paper, and then put some heavy plastic on top. This is the kind of plastic. Oh, it's all coming up the top. That's what usually happens with me. This is a very heavy kind of plastic that you use on windows, and fill that in a bit, and then I find take a little painter's spatula and do the rest of it. I'm probably one of the most awkward and stupid people at pastry work that anyone could be, but I felt that this is the kind of thing that even I could do. So now I'm going to get some of that chocolate off my thumb, and then with all of these things, you put them also into the refrigerator. And it's not the kind of thing to do in a hot day. I'm just going to do one to show you that it can be done. Then I'll show you some actual ones that are in the refrigerator. Now here is the leaf that he did. You see it you put it on the heavy plastic, and it just peels right off, and you can just break it into any size pieces that you want, which is marvelous, isn't it? And here are they're the leaves, and when you turn them upside down, they're on the shiny side. So that's really very nice, isn't it? Now this is the kind of chocolate you use for decorations, and they're to go on top of a cake, but you first have to have a frosting for the cake. And so I'm going to make one of the very best frostings there is, which is called a French chocolate buttercream. And it starts out with 2/3 cup of sugar and 3 tablespoons of water. And you melt that into a sugar syrup at the soft ball stage. And we've done this so many times that I'm not going to actually go through it. I didn't have quite enough water. I'm just going to go through the motions of it. Because I think we've done it. We did it. We've done caramel and we've done chocolate, sugar syrup for meringues. And as you remember, the important thing about it is when you get your sugar and your water in your pan, you don't let it start the hard boil until the sugar has completely melted. That's really the only trick that there is to it. And you can tell when the sugar has melted because it's perfectly clear, and then you let it boil to the soft ball stage, which is 238 degrees. And then it's going to be poured, boiling hot, into 3 yolks and 1 egg. And that just gets mixed up. You can do this by hand, but I think it's fun to use the blender as long as we have it. And then you have to beat it over hot water until it thickens. And what you're actually doing here, you would think that the hot sugar syrup would have thickened the egg, the 3 yolks and the 1 egg, but it hasn't. You have to, all it does is really has melted the sugar. And then what you have to do is treat it as though it were a custard sauce and just beat it over hot water until it becomes thickened. And that's going to take you about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. If you're tremendously courageous, you can beat it over direct heat, but you might get yourself into the scrambled egg syndrome, which would be too bad. And then you just beat and beat and beat until it makes a ribbon like this. See, that's thick. And it's made a ribbon. And then you beat it until it is cool. And it's thick and foamy and beautiful like this. Look at that. Look at that lovely texture there. That's sort of a lovely, foamy, custardy, beautiful thing. And this is the base for your buttercream. And when you think of the kind of frostings that are made out of white vegetable shortening and confectioner's sugar, they're really absolutely disgusting. And just wait till you taste one of these. It's absolutely lovely. And then after this is beaten until it's cool, you can do it in a regular beater or with a hand beater like this. Then you start beating in the butter, and you beat in 2 sticks of soft butter, soft unsalted butter. And that, you just keep right on beating that in, and you have, for this amount, you have 2 sticks of the softened, unsalted butter, and just keep right on beating it until it's all gone in. You see how beautifully foamy it is. And then, after that, you can beat in, usually beat in just a little bit of vanilla as a basic taste, about, say, a teaspoon of vanilla. And then you're ready to beat in what other flavoring you want. In this case, it's going to be chocolate. So I'm going to beat in about, 2 ounces of melted chocolate. You beat in, depending on what effect you want, how dark you want, you can just keep on beating in as much chocolate as you like, and then you can taste it. It's delicious. And if you've had nothing but that sort of white vegetable frosting kind, try this. So, now when you have your frosting made, and you've got your chocolate decorations in the refrigerator, you're ready to decorate your cake. And I want you to see the super fancy cake that Monsieur Dublieu did for me. And watch his every move so that you can do it too. Monsieur Doublieux cuts his cake into 3 layers using a long, sharp knife. First he cuts through the top third, then the second third, and notice he rotates the cake slightly as he cuts to make the layers even. He's done it so many times. And this is one of his creations. Ça s'appelle le malgache.
Le malgache.
Malgache.
Gâteau
And this
malgache.
is a chocolate sponge
Chocolate
cake.
et sponge cake.
Chocolate sponge cake.
Chocolate.
Très bien.
That's all right.
And this is syrup.
Always the syrup.
A sirop de quoi?
You make the cake soft.
Of kirsch, of
Maraschino.
maraschino, cherry flavoring, and sugar.
That's all right.
Bien. Voilà. And ça, c'est
Spécial-
un crème au beurre,
Spécial crème au beurre.
a special buttercream with chocolate in it. Mm. That's the final layer. And this always makes the cake moister and nicer, and even if you get a store-bought cake. Si vous achetez
Oui.
dans le supermarché de mettre un peu de sirop,
Ah
c'est
oui.
très bien.
C'est
Ça,
meilleur. C'est bien meilleur avec du
Yes.
sirop.
And this is the same buttercream on top. And then all around the side. And he has this cake on a little piece of cardboard, it's easy to move it around. This is going to serve how many people, would you say, Chef?
8.
8 people with
Yes,
good appetite.
yes.
No. Oh, and this is chocolate shot.
C'est
Qu'est-ce que vous
c'est
appelez
des
chez vous?
granulés. Granulataire de chocolat.
Granulate. And we
Yeah.
call it chocolate shot.
Ah, chocolate shot.
Chocolate
Yeah.
shot, oui. And you just brush it up. C'est très joli, n'est-ce pas, comme décoration?
Voilà.
And now,
On va mettre le plat.
oui,
Ce
voilà, ce plat.
Thank you very much. Voilà. Alors maintenant, je prends des feuilles. Simon, tu as des feuilles, mon petit?
Now, this is Madame Doublieux who's going to bring this chocolate
you very much.
leaves.
Oui.
Voilà. C'est très joli, n'est-ce pas?
C'est fait sur du nylon.
And this
On
is
the
on
nylon.
nylon. And you just break it up. And put it on.
It's not finished yet.
It's not
I
finished.
put some icing sugar on the top.
Could you have some little pebbles in there? Qu'est-ce
Yes.
qu'il y a dedans?
Ah,
Ça fait un petit bruit. Bien.
voilà.
Oh, and now still
And now I
something
put
more.
some leaves, the
Little-
roses.
Little petals.
Petals
Rose
of
petals.
roses, yes, petals.
Petal. Oui. And that is
Almond paste.
almond paste. That's made out of ground almonds.
Yes, ground almonds, almonds,
Fondant
fondant,
And fondant.
glucose,
and glucose
and some color for the
and a little bit
roses.
of color.
That's all right.
Voulez-vous- Oh, and that's a little, what is that?
That
Qu'est-ce que
is
c'est? What is that?
ice spoon.
It's a broken ice
Broken
spoon.
ice
A
spoon.
broken ice spoon.
You
It
can
just
do
looks
that with the
wonderfully
electric
with an electric light
lamp.
bulb.
That's all
Aha.
right. That's all right.
Just,
You make it the same. You do yourself.
all right. There. Make a little dot, and then take this
That's all
little
right.
thing and go.
Okay.
Oh, that didn't go very well. I'll do another one.
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? I pressed down too hard.
Allez, make it there. Voilà,
Well, you
voilà.
have to have it well well polished.
That's all right. Hey,
Oh, isn't that so
see, it's
cute?
very
isn't it?
easy.
Very easy if you have the almond paste. There.
It's all right.
Oh. That's very pretty to have
Really?
that little color of pink and brown.
It's quick done.
There. Oh, it's
It's all right.
finished.
It's finished now.
It's finished. It's finished. Isn't that very pretty?
Oui.
C'est très joli.
Easy to done.
Easy to done if you know how to do so. Wasn't that was a marvelous cake? And look, this is just about the same thing, using that sheet of chocolate and breaking it up. And I'm putting little store-bought candied violets on mine. Or you could use candied rose petals. They're the violets. And you know, you can get most of these things if you look around carefully at the fancy food section of your grocery. You can also find almond paste, and with food coloring you can make the same thing that he did. And we're gonna go into the dining room and see a display of cake so that you'll see all the wonderful things that you can do with Chef Dublieu's ideas. A little candied violet, which is awfully good. There we are. And here's our one with the chocolate cigarettes on, and here's the Dublieu, Gâteau Dublieu, and I'm just going to serve you one to show that it's not only beautiful to look at, but good to eat. I only made mine as a 2-layer cake, but isn't that is really a very pretty cake, I think. And with this, you could certainly serve a very nice, sweet wine, one of the sweet sauternes, or a champagne. I think one thing I love about desserts like this, that it does give you an opportunity to serve some of those lovely sweet wines. So that's all for today on The French Chef. This is Julia Child.
This program was made possible by a grant from Polaroid Corporation. Julia Child is the author of From Julia Child's Kitchen, which includes the recipes from this program.